And I am done. So I just finished up Hunger of the Gods by John Gwynne, and I got an advanced copy of the book. So thank you very much to the publisher for sending that out to me. I wanted to give a quick non-spoiler review for this book and let you know my unedited thoughts as soon as I finish reading it. So I loved this book. This is an easy 5 out of 5 for me. It's probably going to go down as my favorite book of 2022. Looking down the line of the books that are coming out later this year, I'm excited by some of them. But this was the one I was most excited about, and I feel like it just knocked it out of the park. I loved Shadow of the Gods. I thought it was my favorite book of last year, and I wasn't quite sure how it would be topped. I'm a sucker for first books in a fantasy series. There's something about, crafting a world and creating it where you get to go along with the character and learn the rules of this new world together. And there's something about uncovering that magic of what makes it tick that's really special to me. And oftentimes books, the second of a trilogy especially, can get that middle book syndrome. I'm looking at you, Miss Bourne, where they might be good, but they're not quite as good because they have to rely all on plot. They don't have that world building aspect anymore unless the characters are exploring like a brand new part of the world where different things are true to it as compared to the first book. That's not the case in Hunger of the Gods. It's the same world. You're going to the same locations. I think there might be like one or two locations they go to that are different, but it's essentially the same thing, just a little bit, just a different location. But it's the same thing. So this book had to rely on plot, and it was amazing. The pacing in this book was even better than the first one. The first one started a little bit slow. It did have exciting parts in the beginning, don't get me wrong. But the ending of the first book really showed the epic scale, and you got a sense of where this book was going, right? This book started up immediately where the first book left off and took it to new heights. It went, cranked it up to 11. It's not like the whole book was action-packed. There was a lot of journeying from one point to the other where the characters got to learn more about each other before and after, the big battle sequences, which are, the best. John Gwynn's the best at doing battle sequences, and there's a fair amount of those in this book, which is awesome. Don't want to spoil anything, but I will say that they added a couple more point of view characters. The so-called baddies. And I really appreciated it because in the first book, it feels like it's really black and white, right? You've got the good guys, you've got the bad guys. John Gwynne does a lot of that in his previous books. And by showing, the bad guys in this book, you got a sense that, they're really not as bad as you thought they were. They're certainly bad, but they have a good point. They have good motivations, and you got to feel the morally gray aspect, not just of the bad characters, but you got to see the good characters in a different light because you could see, the perspective that these bad characters had of the good guys. So I appreciated that. I'll say that, John Gwynne I think is cemented as maybe my favorite modern fantasy writer. He knocks it out of the park every time. This is my fifth book that I've read by John Gwynne. I'm looking forward to reading the rest of them. And every one of them is a 5 out of 5 for me, which is the only time that I've ever experienced that with a fantasy writer. I've had some fantasy writers write, 2, 3 books that are 5 out of 5s, but eventually it drops. I'm not seeing that happen with John Gwynne. And, I'm immensely impressed. I urge you to turn off this video and go pre-order the book. Or if you're seeing this video later, go buy it immediately. If you haven't read Shadow of the Gods, I don't know what you're doing. Go read that book. Great books. You won't waste your time. Amazing in all ways. And those are my thoughts.